Gato, and I'm here with Coach Andrew Palmer, and we're discussing all things women's volleyball. So this past week, you took on Aurora, you took on Alverno. There, you split there. However, you had some shining moments in the Aurora game. It was not the outcome you wanted, but you were getting up to high numbers. In the first set, it may have felt after that timeout you guys had, but you were hanging in there. And then for the second and third set, there was points where you're going point for point, and then maybe a service run by Aurora, but it was still pretty close. Yeah. For your athletes, when you have a close game like that, and a lot of them, it's their first year, what are you telling them?
Yeah, I mean, just for us, it's about doing what you do best continuously. You know, the things that make you successful, how many times can you repeat doing those same things? And I think for us as, a younger team and really growing and learning how to win as a program, with this young roster, how to continually do those things, and I feel like at times that we almost lose our minds a little bit and we're like, okay, cool, we're doing good things. Cool, we can kind of put it on pause, and it's just continuing to do those things and understand what has been making you successful, and how to keep doing those things. So for us, it's just learning and kind of taking our lumps, but growing through them and the successes and praising those and building off of those.
And really, someone that's been jumping to the front really had a good week last week was Brown and Foster, who had kill marks that Brown came in cold and was able to put up numbers. Was third in kills against Aurora. And then for Foster was your main kill leader against Aurora, especially as a freshman with those nerves, with just going up a team where a lot of their team was upperclassmen, going there as freshmen, hitting over the block. What are you preparing your outsides to do to hit those shots and also just go in there and just swing away?
Yeah, we want to be aggressive. We want to put a defense on their heels and, adjust to what they're doing. They're going to try and make us go to our second and third shot and, just really being aggressive and playing your game. You don't need to be somebody different. You need to be yourself and just being really confident in what you do and not changing any of those kind of things. So, for them, it's just individually, it's just talking about, hey, this is what you're doing well. This is what we need you to do. And this is, the things that you don't necessarily need to worry about. You don't need to focus on, but this is what you want to focus on. And so just making sure that they're ready and just playing hard, and we'll figure the rest out.
And also during that Aurora game, Rotha led the whole team, the whole game in digs too. For as a libero, and also she's also played DS too. What are you telling your defensive players? Because Heidel too also was one of the top dig leaders in that game too.
Yeah, defense is so much just about going and getting the ball and just being aggressive. You can make your read, but the ball doesn't mean it's going to come to you. You're going to have to go make a read and then a second movement. And so really just trying to read your hitter well, be in a good position to then go make a secondary movement and make a play. And after that, it's just about grit and heart and just getting that ball up in the air. So that's what we tell them is just, hey, we need to be aggressive on going after wherever that ball's at. And they really did a good job of that.
And continuing with grit, there's still a possibility where you make this conference tournament. You're taking on Marion. You guys have your senior day coming up too. What are you doing to prepare for those matches? Yeah,
just continue to focus on ourselves and playing our best in each and every moment, not looking too far ahead. We're not thinking about the end, after November 6th. We're looking for, this Halloween, an away game, a conference game. We're looking at that first, and then we'll worry about the rest thereafter.
And with that, just the mental aspect of your sport, a lot of your players are injured or sick, or it's coming that time where it's towards the end of the season. And what are you telling them to get past that just mental hump of the season? Yeah,
really that when you're healthy and, everyone's dealing with bumps and bruises, right? But when you're sick, overcoming that, when you're ready to go, let's go, But managing yourself, taking care of yourself, doing those things necessary. So that way when you are on the court, we can push ourselves and we can grow. But, we need all hands on deck. And we've changed lineups and moved people around based on injuries and sickness and things like that. And so just really being adaptable and ready to play for this team.
And adaptable might be a mantra for your season this year. Grit is another one. Just switching up lineups, really throwing players in, and really seeing what they can do. And really, a lot of them have been able to step up and just perform. Just with that, what do you your thoughts on just your athletes being able to just adapt so fluidly.
Yeah, I love it. And it's something that we talk about. You know, we talk about our pins being able to play on both ends, middles being able to transition and play a little bit of right side, you know, get a bigger block up there. So we just talk about, at the end of the day, we want to play volleyball, and the best lineup that works and gels is what we're looking for, you know, but being able to step in and help the team any way possible, that's huge. And that's something that we continue to talk about and work on a daily basis.
Coverage for all sports can be found at CUCougars.com. On Thursday, the CUC women's volleyball team is taking on Marion away. Coverage for that can be found online. And this Saturday, the Cougars have their senior day, so tune in. Coverage for that can be found at CUCougars.
Hello, Cougar Nation, and welcome to Geisman Gymnasium here on Saturday, November 2nd for Senior Day at Concordia, Chicago. Cougar Volleyball taking on the visiting Lakeland University Muskies in the second-to-last game of the regular season, a game that has implications for both teams when it comes to those final standings. We'll get into that a bit more as this game gets started. I'm Jonathan Shearer with the Cougar Sports Network. Joining me today is Van Gato. And Van, both of these teams, with where their standards were set, disappointing seasons so far. Lakeland projected to finish at the top of the conference, and the Cougars currently sitting on the outside, looking in at conference with a very tough road to make those playoffs. Where do you think both teams go today? Because the Cougars, with a loss, are officially eliminated from the playoffs. The Muskies, they've clinched a spot, but they have the opportunity to move up. Which team do you really think has the most at stake here today?
I think the Cougars have a lot at stake today. If they win this projects them higher up, and when it comes down to ties, they took on one of the top teams in the conference. They are so close to potentially still being in this tournament, the Cougars. They just need to win every single game going forward, and they have been doing that. And it's really a nail-biting situation right now, especially on senior night.
Absolutely, as this match gets underway, Christensen keeps that alive. Adler sets up for Livesey, who goes all the way across. That's tipped, and the Cougars draw first blood. They're up 1-0, but like you mentioned, the Cougars, they've been do or die for a while now, and they're coming off of 2 straight wins over Alverno and Marion, picking up wins when they need to. So that's exactly what they're trying to continue to do here today, as that'll be set up for Stevens, and Susanna Stevens picks up her first kill of the day. The NAC's leading killer on the season adds 1 to that total.
With her height and just the way she swings, she puts all her power, and it's just a heavy hit. So it's hard for the defense, especially when it hits those corners, to get up.
Back to serve is Amira Sapansky. That'll be set up by Adler for Livesey. And Livesey finds Pater in the near corner. That's another kill for the sophomore. Cougars up 2-1.
As long as the Cougars play consistent with their serve-receive, there's nothing that they can't do. Serve-receive is one of the things that has been very shaky for this team. Their first contact on serve has been really good, and they're very much a defensive team. But when it comes down to just the serve-receive, it hasn't been at par to run the middles and to run a spread offense.
And Lakeland draws back even with a dump-off from Sydney Gay. So the setter showing her ability to go for points herself, as now Carastillo will serve that up. Brown able to get that over. Now it'll be set up for Stevens. Senior Katie Heidel sends that over to Christensen. These two teams going back and forth. Now Stevens will try to end it, and that one will be tipped by the Cougars. Susanna Stevens puts Lakeland in front 3-2 in the early goings. Neither team really able to garner much momentum through these first 5 points.
There might have been a touch or someone was in the net, but the Cougars didn't ultimately get that point.
Carastillo sends that across again. Adler setting up for Brown. That'll be kept alive. Brown gets up there to send it back over. And that'll be a point. Cougars. Double touch called on Caitlin Pernsteiner. And the Cougars draw back even 3-3 with Acacia Brown dropping back to serve herself. Acacia Brown, one of those seniors on this Cougars team today, playing in a couple of her final games as a Cougar. And the Cougars will take that lead back. Good front line defense. And Lily Hunt, she's been back with this team, but there were a couple games where she was out hurt, and in watching those games, you really were able to see just how important she is to this team, especially to that front line. She's one of the tallest players on this roster, and without her up there, without that height, the Cougars really struggled to get much momentum at the front wall.
And while she was in, she was one of those players that was leading the team in kills, having a consistent record, leading the team on the NAC side, the stat side, of just points per set. And with her injury, it just put her down a couple pegs on those leaderboards, but she is a pivotal asset to this team.
Absolutely, and there's Hunt trying to go across the coast. Marin to Adler. Just tapped over by Cooper. Marin able to get under it, but into the bleachers. And the Muskies back in front, 5-4. These two teams trading points still in the early goings. Back to serve now is Caitlin Kitsemble. Marin receives that to Adler. Now here's Christensen. Has to lean back for it. And Brooke Christensen able to get the kill off the errant set. And the Cougars draw back even once again. And this is another aspect that we saw. We just talked about Lily Hunt's injury. With Hunt out, the Cougars reverted to the 5-1 formation. They'd switched to the 6-2 earlier in the season. Had to go back to that 5-1 because of an injury to Lily Hunt, as well as a couple other players on this roster, which has struggled with injuries lately. But with Hunt back, with Janelle White back as well, she's been operating as one of those two setters. The Cougars able to go back to that formation.
Provides diversity. One of the things that a 6-2 just benefits from is that there is two setters. There's a hitter on the court at all times. You always have options. However, the negative aspect to it is that when there's two different setters, sometimes there's just two different flows that the setters run, which is confusing for an offense, but also confusing for the other defense. So it's almost a double-edged sword sometimes, but ultimately the Cougars have found success using this 6-2, so it benefits them to run this and have a hitter on the court at all times, that right side really.
And through these early goings, both teams even. Cougars able to keep up the pace with a strong Muskie squad. Now Livesey blocked at the line. White sets up for Dickin, who just taps that over. There's Pernsteiner, able to get that over the net and tipped by the Cougars. Point Muskies, and that's our first 2-point lead of the day for either squad. Lakeland now in front in set number 1, 8-6. Pernsteiner back to serve herself. Heidel receives. White sets up Cooper. It's a low set. Blocked at the line, and that will get over the net. An errant pass works out for the Cougars, but that will be a kill for Brianna Harper. The shot eats up Christensen on the back row. Now it's a 3-point lead for the Muskies. 3-0 scoring run, biggest of the day for either team. Christensen received. White able to get there. Now Livesey from mid-range floats that over. That's set up for Escobar, and that will go off of the Cougars once again. Now it's a 4-0 run. Lakeland finding that momentum.
Really, Lakeland has a huge height advantage against the Cougars. A lot of their players around that, especially in the front court, are around that 5'11", 5'10", 6-foot range. Gives them such an advantage to cut line and just hit those corners.
But the Cougars able to get a kill on the front line themselves. Eve Dickin getting the deflection on the block, and the Cougars get back up on the board and take service back with the senior Katie Heidel dropping back to serve. That's set up for Pernsteiner. Kept up by White. Now Dickin from the right side. Deflected at the block. And down on Lakeland's side, the Cougars 2 in a row.
Just a textbook dig there into a perfect out-of-system ball. Really, when they show that they could use their defense perfectly, the Cougars shine.
And that'll be down, perfectly placed on the line by Brianna Harper. Found the space on the court where there were no Cougars. And possession back to Lakeland. Riley Escobar dropping back to serve. Livesey to White. Back to Livesey, just tapped over now. This will be set up for Susanna Stevens. Blocked at the wall, but blocked out of bounds.
Right now, the serve receive for the Cougars has been really good. So if they just fix their blocking right now and press a little bit more, or just turn more into the court with their blocks, this game could be how it was point for point earlier in the set.
And that's just going to be tapped over by Gay. Christensen passing over to Livesey, blocked at the wall and down. Now a 5-point lead for the Muskies, biggest of the day. Lakeland able to take that momentum back after the Cougars got 2 points of their own. Christensen receives good reception. Brown just has to pass it over. And Stevens will just pass it over herself. Heidel passing up for Christensen from mid-range, blocked at the wall. And Livesey blocked as well. White keeps it up. Christensen passing to Dickin. Floated to the back corner. Now pass over to Stevens. Off the net and out of bounds. Point Cougars. And Susanna Stevens, she does not lead this team in hitting percentage. She does lead this team in errors, but again, a lot of the times that errors is a quantity stat. Susanna Stevens leads the Muskies in errors because she's taking the most attempts, more than any other player on that roster. Has a season hitting percentage of over 200, which is very solid for an outside hitter.
Leading the conference also in kills is not a stat that should be talked about slightly. Just a strong hitter overall. Her height and just the way that she swings through the ball gives her such an advantage towards the other hitters in this conference.
And meanwhile, the Cougars starting to gain some momentum back. Lily Hunt brings a hot sauce right down to the back corner. The Cougars now on a 3-0 run. CUC back to trailing by 2. Milena Adler back to serve once again. And that's an errant reception to the wall, but the Cougars unable to take advantage of it. That will drop down on CUC's side. Point Lakeland. Sabansky dropping back to serve once more. That serve received by Livesey. Now Adler setting up for Brown, coming around the right side. And some messy passing from the Muskies side. Straight into the net. Kasia Brown unable to get it over. And the Muskies on what was a sloppy play from Lakeland's side, more so than we've seen today, works out for them in the end. The Cougars make some errors of their own. Received by Heidel. Adler has to sprint to get there. Now Livesey, coast to coast, drops it in the back corner.
With that triple block, that middle back needs to scoot over, or their Ryan Figge, who's been phenomenal with defense today, getting a lot of ups, being in the right spot at the right time, just wasn't in the right spot for both the middle back and Ryan Figge, which led to an error right there for the defensive end.
But Susanna Stevens going to take it back for CUC, and that's where she's at her most lethal. When Lakeland's able to get those perfectly executed offensive plays, set up Stevens right where she wants it, she can get all the power, all the angles she wants behind it, and that's just a very, very hard shot to stop, no matter how much you prepare. Set up for Pernsteiner, and that's down on the back line. Caitlin Pernsteiner picks up another point, and that's going to prompt the first timeout of the day from Andrew Palmer. Cougars trail by 5. Coach Palmer trying to get the Cougars back on track, trying to get them back into this set number 1 that hasn't really been an awful set for the Cougars, only trailing by 5, and they've shown to be very competitive at points throughout this set. But it comes down to those runs, and where the Cougars have been gaining 2, maybe 3 points per run. We've seen some 4-0 runs from Lakeland, and that's where they've been able to build that gap.
Really, with the Cougars, it's really a thing about their blocking right now. Their serve receive has been solid. It's just setting up those correct angles. For Lakeland, they are a taller team. They have a little bit of an advantage when they're at the net, and they could hit the ball over, but just creating lanes. But the block really hasn't been consistent, which leaves the middle back player filling these holes, guessing where they need to go, and it's such a struggle. So once they fix that, their defense is solid enough when they're in the right place at the right time and the block is good that they will get an up.
So we've seen throughout this season the first set is a very important one for the Cougars in building that momentum. This is a team that has struggled with falling behind early in their losses throughout this season, but so far today hasn't been a rough set one. They've fallen behind, but they're still in it in this first set. Now possession Muskies, and dropping back to serve for the Muskies is Rosalie Carrasquillo. And on Lakeland side, we talked a lot about Susanna Stevens. She's had a good day, 4 kills, but it's Caitlin Pernsteiner who's really been doing the heavy lifting for this squad. 6 kills, no errors so far today. And that'll be a point over to the Cougars, tipped at the line by Lakeland, so the Cougars do exactly what they need to, come out of the timeout and pick up the point.
I'm not even sure if they really knew they got that point either. A touch allowed them to get that ball, but it was close enough where it could have been even called in, too.
Now, Kasia Brown will send that across. That's a high reception. Stevens running in on it will just tap it over. Now Adler setting up Hunt on the far side. Spike down on the net and dropping down on Lakeland's side of the court. Point Cougars, 2 in a row. Lily Hunt just powering through the block. That's received by Stevens. Pernsteiner sets up Escobar. Now Christensen blocked at the line, kept up by Cooper. Hunt from the far side. Blocked at the line and right back into her face. And it's a tough loss on the point for the Cougars, and the Muskies again winning those blocks at the line. Taking possession back. 4-point lead, 18-14 Lakeland. Dropping back to serve is Caitlin Kinsemble. Second service opportunity of the day for the junior out of Lake Mills, Wisconsin. Kinsemble sends that across. Marin to Adler, setting up Cooper! And Cooper perfectly placed. Got both Carrasquillo and Kinsemble caught flat-footed. And the Cougars take possession back immediately, and that's a big point win for CUC coming out of the timeout. First point for the Muskies and nothing more. Janelle White already dropping back to serve again for CUC. Carrasquillo setting up Pernsteiner. Now Dickin from the right side, blocked at the line. She'll keep it alive herself. Now Heidel to Christensen. Sets up Esquibel, and that's going to be a point to the Cougars. A lift called on the Muskies. Actually, haven't seen that call that much.
Lift? Yeah, I'm not. That's. Did their setter or their lip take that second ball?
I didn't catch who it was. Either way now, the Cougars only trailing by 2. As Heidel will pass that over to Christensen. Great save on the far side from Figi. But it doesn't matter. It'll drop down eventually. Anyways, the Cougars, they have stayed in this game. Down 5 points at their last time out. Only trailing by 1, 18-17. Janelle White behind a 3-0 scoring run. As now Carrasquillo will set up Esquibel. Christensen from the far side, tipped at the line, and the Cougars draw even 18-18. Brooke Christensen playing the block very well with that attempt.
And this is what being an undersized outside is all about. Using the block to your advantage, going for that high seam, making sure you get just a touch in any way possible to get those kills.
Now Dickin from the far side, that's right into the face of Kinsemble, but she's able to keep it up. White setting up Cooper, but the set's in too far in front. Janelle White getting in front of Harmony Cooper as she tried to make the run. And that'll end the Cougars' 4-0 scoring run. It's back to a 1-point lead for Lakeland.
You can't waste a dig like that, too. That's such a perfect dig. And you need to run your middle there and just efficiency. And that's one of the problems with the 6-2, like we said, when there's different tempos with setter. Sometimes just mistakes like that happen.
Now Janelle White sets up Dickin from the near side, and that's an errant reception into the bleachers. Lakeland head coach Ryan Schaaf shaking his head at that one, but the Cougars draw back even Another thing to note with that second setter in Janelle White, she had never played setter before this season. She came into this year as a libero on this squad and has appeared as that second setter in the 6-2 formation and has had to learn that position early as Brianna Harper wins that attempt. The block from the Cougars falls down on CUC's side. These two teams trading point. Lakeland with a 20-19 lead. First team to 20.
And with doubles getting completely gone, it allows someone like a Lib to get those reps too, to be a setter too, which that's why they have that whole rule where you can't jump if the Lib takes the second ball with their hands in front of the line, because everyone would just, if your Lib could just set the whole time, your Lib would set the whole time, and you have 5 options on the court.
And the Cougars draw back even 20-20. Block from Lakeland goes out of bounds. Another traded point from these two squads as Katie Heidel will send that across. This is going to be set up for Esquibel. That's just tipped over. White sets up to Livesey off the net. Now Esquibel from the far side. Tipped off the block and drops down. That's another kill for the freshman out of Devine, Texas. These two teams trading points again. Neither team able to get any consecutive scoring in the last few points. And now Riley Esquibel will drop back to serve herself. Received by Christensen. White setting up for Livesey. Drops down on the far corner again. Livesey finds space where nobody is. And another traded point. These two teams even 21-21. Elena Adler sends that across, set up for Susanna Stevens. And that reception from Brooke Christensen will stay alive off the ceiling. Stevens blocked at the line. Now Pernsteiner will just have to send that across. Heidel passing up for Hunt for mid-range. That's just shoved over by Brianna Stevens. A great save from Brooke Christensen. But neither Rachel Livesey nor Acacia Brown expecting it, and no one is there to receive it. Cougars lose that rally. They now trail by 22-21. Another traded point. And that'll prompt the final timeout of the set from head coach Andrew Palmer. His team's climbed back even with Lakeland, but they've been unable to climb back in front. We'll take a short break here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a minute for the final points of set number 1. Hello, Cougar Nation, and welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium. We're here in set number 1 of today's matchup between the Cougars and the visiting Lakeland Muskies, and it has been an intense set number 1. Both teams trading points here in the late stages. Lakeland holding service possession with a 1-point lead, and that serve will be received by Katie Heidel. Milena Adler sets up for Rachel Livesey. This is set up for Susanna Stevens, and that's going to get dropped in on the line. Stevens plays the line perfectly, and finally a team able to pick up 2 consecutive points. Lakeland in front, 23-21.
That's where her height just comes in such an advantage, and that's why she's leading the whole conference in kills right now, is because she could turn and hit that ball so aggressively.
This is going to be set up for Pernsteiner. And that block at the line from Acacia Brown is going to go to the court. And that's going to make it set point. Lakeland comes out of the timeout hot. They lead by 3, 24-21. Amira Stepanski back to serve once again. Biggie sends it across. Adler to Livesey. Blocked at the net, drops down on Lakeland side. Stevens from mid-range to the back line and down. And that'll do it on set number 1. Lakeland comes out hot of the final timeout and wins it 25-21. And after getting ahead early, letting the Cougars climb back into it, and then getting ahead late, Lakeland will take an early 1-0 set lead, and they'll take a break before set number 2. Lakeland jumps out early here in today's match, and we'll take a short break at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment to get ready for set number 2. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium for set number 2 of today's matchup between the Lakeland University Muskies and the Concordia University Chicago Cougars. Lakeland up 1-0 after taking set number 1 with a score of 25-21. A competitive set number 1 ended by a 4-0 run in favor of Lakeland. And as we head into this second set, Susanna Stevens already with 6 kills on the day. Been a strong performance from the senior out of New Mexico. But it's been Caitlin Pernsteiner who leads the Muskies in kills so far today with 7 and no errors, hitting at a percentage of .538 so far on the day. Remarkable performances from 2 players on Lakeland's side. And they'll serve it up to start up set number 2. And there's another dump off from Sydney Gay. Second time we've seen that today, and it picks up another point. She did it once very, very early in set number 1, breaking it out on the first rally of set number 2.
It's such an important thing to dump early on, because then it shows that you as a setter are a threat, but also shows that anywhere on the court there could always be a ball over the net, giving it an advantage for the Lakeland because the defense won't know what's going to be set.
And now Lakeland jumping out to a 2-0 lead. Hunt sends that one out of bounds. Dropping back to serve once again, Riley Escobar. Christensen able to keep it up. And now Katie Heidel just has to pass it over. And that one will drop down out of bounds. Point Cougars. Milena Adler chased it all the way over until she was barely able to pull her hand back to avoid tapping it. Great last-second awareness from the freshman setter. And the Cougars pick up their first point of the set. And Shaira Marin, the senior out of Puerto Rico, will serve this one up. Gay sets up Stevens. And that's going to be a point to the Cougars. Stevens got it deflected off the net, but still too much power. Now head out of bounds.
That's her whole thing. She has such a heavy arm, and it has so much power behind her hit, which allows her to get these hard shots and these hard kills.
And Shaira Marin sends that one into the net, sending it back over to the Muskies side. Lakeland now up 3-2. And again, these two teams trading points early, similar to how set number one began. Now Figgy, received by Christensen. Marin passing over to Christensen, who's unable to get a clean hit on it, and she'll send it into the net. 4-2 lead now for Lakeland. Figgy sending it across again. Adler setting up Hunt. That'll get through to the back corner. And good defense at the line from Acacia Brown. Recognizes that the soft tap is coming, gets up there herself, and sends it straight back down on the Muskie side of the court.
With one hand, too. Fully housed them. Brown has been that player that's kind of been switching between outside and middle this season, but she just has so much potential and threat as a middle. She was leading the team in blocks last year. She just knows how to put a block up, press, and just uses her age and seniority on the team to show that she is a presence, she is a wall, and she could do numbers.
And that's an errant reception from Katie Heidel out of bounds. That'll be another point going the way of Lakeland. They now lead 6-3, building a bigger lead earlier than we've seen from any other team any time in set number one. And a great pancake save from Carrasquillo. Cougars able to get the kill, but that stayed alive longer than you would have expected. Rosalie Carrasquillo getting down to keep it alive. But the Cougars take possession back. They trail by 2 now, 6-4. And that'll get down for a kill. Lakeland taking possession back immediately. The Cougars able to take possession again, but unable to keep it. Dropping back to serve for Lakeland is Kitsemble. She'll send it across, received by Heidel. White able to keep it alive. Now Dickin from the far side. That's going to be double touched at the line called by the far judge. That'll be a point to the Cougars. Dropping back to serve now, Eve Dickin. Brooke Christensen actually dropping back to serve as Eve Dickin on the kill. Now Christensen will send that across. Charging up on it is Esquivel, and it's blocked at the line. The Cougars, they've come out strong at the net in set number 2 so far.
They show that they want it, that they're in it. They still want to be in this conference tournament, and this game is really the game that you need to show up and step out.
That reception getting up to the ceiling, bouncing off the rafters. Heidel able to receive it. It's into the net. Christensen just have to pass it over. Both teams just scrambling to stay alive. Now Christensen from the back row. That'll just be dumped over by Carrasquillo. And a smart heads-up play out of the senior to end that point. dropping back to serve is Isabella Westerholm. She'll send it across. That'll be set up by White. Foster sends it over. Now Foster just slaps that back over again. Heidel receives. Christensen charging, unable to get there off the errant reception. Now get out of bounds for a point to the Muskies. They're up to a 3-point lead once again, 9-6. And the Muskies, they've had a consistent lead. They've been able to get those points. But the Cougars, they haven't really let them get more than 3 or 4 points away so far. As that will be a 4th hit. The Cougars unable to keep that one alive on some missed passes on their side of the court. They drop down by 4. It's now 10-6 Lakeland. White sets up Foster, blocked at the line. And again, miscommunication between this squad. Harmony Cooper getting in the way of Janelle White, so the Cougars unable to keep it up. And Andrew Palmer is going to take his first time out of the set, try and get the Cougars back on track after some miscommunication in the last couple of points.
Yeah, really miscommunication. There's been ups, there's been touches, and an up is an up. You need to go. You need to be more aware. I think they were very much strong in the start of the game, but once that strength started to sizzle out, they're starting to freak out, and they're really not performing how they should be performing. The Cougars just need to recenter and just be, hey, this is up, we could go for this, or hey, this is still a 2 pass, this is still a good pass, we could still run this, and think like that instead of thinking everything needs to be so perfect and then start crumbling to win this game.
Absolutely, and that's something that we have seen from the Cougars on this year as a whole is once they get behind, you can see them start to, like you said, Van, they start to panic a bit, and they start to press and try and force their way back into the game. And a couple of times it's worked, but a lot of the time it ends up with, like you've mentioned, what we see out on the court right now. So that's what Coach Palmer's just trying to get them to settle in, breathe it down. There is still a lot of match left. Even if this ends up being a sweep, there's over half of the game left today. The Cougars a lot of time to get back into this match, to get back into this set even. And they'll be looking to come out of this with timeout strong. Back to serve once again is Westerholm. She has Lakeland on a 4-0 scoring run. White was set up for Dickin, who goes from mid-range. Now there's Pernsteiner on the far side, straight into the net, and that's going to be 4 touches on the end of Lakeland. So the Cougars force an error out of the timeout and pick up the possession. Dropping back to serve for the Cougars is Bethany Rathel. And Rathel sends it across. As we set up by Carrasquillo for Pernsteiner, and Pernsteiner sets it out of bounds. Caitlin Pernsteiner still leading this squad in kills, still leading the game in kills with 8. But that picks up her first error of the day, or her second error of the day, actually, after being flawless in set number 1. Carrasquillo sets up Brianna Harper, and nobody watching that near corner. Harper sees it and just sends it down. Lakeland takes back the point. They have a 4-point lead back, 12-8. Dropping back to serve is Caitlin Pernsteiner. Rathel receives. White passing over to Foster. And Foster just a bit too much on it. Drops down out of bounds. So it's an attacking error going the way of the freshman. 5-point lead again for Lakeland. So the Cougars able to get some points back, but they've lost those immediately. Christensen receives, set up for Brown at the line. White will just pass it over to Rathel again. Now Dickin spiking that down. Here's Esquivel finding space in the middle of the court, but Janelle White able to keep it up off the pass from Christensen, but Esquivel sends it into the block, and the Cougars block drops down on their own side of the court. So the Cougars stay alive but can't win the point. Now a 6-point lead for Lakeland, 14-8, another 3-0 run for the Muskies. Received by Christensen. Set up for Esquivel, who finds space on the far side of the court. The Cougars' far side defense gets caught flat-footed. And the Muskies, 4-0 run. They lead by 7. This is not how the Cougars wanted the few points coming out of that timeout to go. White sets up for Foster, and Foster able to drop it down, splits the gap between Figgy and Kitsemble.
Really, the Cougars got in a rut there, but just they need to roll with the punches, need to roll with the changes, and just continue to build momentum to get at least close into this set, or if not for this set, build enough momentum for the third set.
Now Pernsteiner sends that out, and this is an opportunity to build that momentum. Unforced errors from the opposing team giving you those free points. The Cougars would love to capitalize now. 2 consecutive points, looking to pick up some more. They trail by 5 as Adler's serve is received by Figgy. Set up by Gay for Esquivel, blocked at the line. Now Pernsteiner from mid-range. Adler sets up Hunt, and Lily Hunt able to get that past the net. Not really much of a block at all, and Lily Hunt able to pick up another kill. And Lily Hunt, she's had a bit of a slow start today, only her 3rd kill of the day. If the Cougars can get her more active in this match, that'll go a long ways towards getting back into it. And there's another unforced error. Harper unable to get that set, which was a bit ahead of her over the net. And now the Cougars, just after they drop down by 7, are only down by 3. They're on a 4-0 scoring run themselves. That'll be received by Figgy. Gay sets up Esquivel. Adler keeps it up, and Christensen will just pass it across. And Brianna Harper, another error. A low set, and Harper spikes it into the net, and that's going to prompt the first timeout of the day from Ryan Schopp. Doesn't like what he's seeing out on the court right now, but the Cougars love it. They're on a 5-0 scoring run. They're back to only a 2-point deficit.
Yes, the Cougars really recentered, refocused, and really just used that to get on a run and be in this game. Although for Lakeland, they are fully leading this game in kills right now. They're leading this game in digs too. The Cougars really just need to figure out how they're going to get that ball over the net and get those kills, because they can compete with this team. We can see it's close. It's been close games like that. Although the Lakeland has gone on runs a couple times, if the Cougars can just find the court more, they will either win this game, or it will be so close that they'll be unquestioned that the Cougars could have competed this season without the injuries, without the illness, without the external stuff, especially for such a young team this year.
And that is an aspect of this Cougars team. They are a young team. Your only actual setter on the roster this year coming into it was Milena Adler, who is a freshman, and she has played a critical role on this team. Jess Perkins, another freshman who's played a large part, especially in that front row. She's been incredibly effective for this team all year, but been out for the last couple of games with a knee injury, still out, and that's the one injury loss for the Cougars today, and that's what the Cougars are currently fighting through, and it's the freshman Milena Adler who will continue to serve the Cougars on a 5-0 scoring run. Look to continue that out of the Lakeland timeout. Now Esquivel says absolutely not to that. Fine space on the back row of the Cougars side. And Lakeland takes possession and a 3-point lead back, 16-13. Now Christensen receives. Adler sets up for Brown, but unable to drop it in on the backside. Just a bit too much distance on it. So Riley Esquivel back to serve once again with a 4-point lead behind her. Rathel receives, but it's an errant reception into the tower judge.
It seemed more like a communication thing. Rathel was right there, right? Could have got that ball, but looked like Foster went for it, and it just tricked her out.
And out of the timeout, the Muskies playing strong with a 3-point run that is ended. Esquivel owns it herself. with a service error straight into the net. So the Cougars take possession back, and last time the Cougars won a point off of a Lakeland serve, they were able to go on a 5-0 run. Now with Shira Marin, one of this team's more of a go-to server, she'll look to get the Cougars on another one of those runs. And Susanna Stevens able to pick that one up, blocked at the line by CUC and blocked out of bounds. So back to a 5-point lead for Lakeland. Dropping back to serve is Ryan Figge. Sent across. Christensen receives it errantly, but the Cougars able to keep it alive. Gay sets up Westerholm, but the Cougars front line comes up big. Bit of a miscommunication on that set to kill attempt. And these two teams trading points again. CUC still trails by 4, however. Sent across. Gay will pass that up for Stevens. Tipped at the line. Marin keeps it up. Cooper's able to get it over. Now Westerholm able to pass it over. And the Cougars squander that. Miscommunication. And the Cougars defense crumbles. And this late in the set, the Cougars absolutely couldn't have that mistake. They now trail by 5. Lakeland first team to 20 again. It's a 20-15 lead for the Muskies.
Especially when no libs in. That communication error happens a lot. You see in volleyball when middles go for balls and sometimes they don't.
Now Adler just has to pass that over. Figge keeps it up. Now Stevens from the near side, blocked. And that point will go to the Cougars. 4 touches called on the Muskies. So CUC, they'll trade those points. The Cougars will have to go on a run to get back in this set, though. They still trail by 4. And Janelle White back to serve. We saw her go on a run at the service line in set number 1. And now Figge forced to just pass that over. Rathel receives. White setting up Christensen. And that'll just be dumped over. A great play from Carrasquillo.
With her height, she has such an advantage with dumping because they're not going to expect it. She's back row 2. She can just dump, be under the net. It won't be called against them. It's such a good play with undersized setters.
That's sent across. Rathel receives. White passing over to Dickin. And Dickin, too much on it. Sent out of bounds on the near corner. 6-point lead for Lakeland. And they've extended that lead. They're 3 away from taking set number 2. And the Cougars make a substitution. Eve Dickin pulled in favor of Milena Adler. And now Adler will go over to set it herself. Cooper taps it over. Muskie's able to keep it alive. Now Bernsteiner blocked at the net. Cooper keeps it alive. Christensen, a floater herself. Carrasquillo sets for Westerholm, and Westerholm able to force the Cougars into a tough play. Another point for Lakeland, 7-point lead. And with the Cougars 2 points away from falling in set number 2, Coach Palmer will take his final timeout of the set. So CUC looked like they could get back into it, but again, just some mistakes leading to a 3-0 run for Lakeland. They trail by 7 now. We've seen them be able to go on runs, but this late in the set, you really do have to be perfect.
Yes, be perfect. The Cougars right now need to say, hey, like, we may not be able to win this set. They're closer to 25, but we need to build momentum. We need to be back in this game. And ultimately, it's comes down to just right now the serve receive, the way that there's been changes been made. They were passing so good earlier in this game too. It's just something either with this, something's not clicking. There's either a sense of urgency thing or just I'm not sure. They're in it and then they're not. For these Cougars, it might just be an age thing too. A lot of this team, like we said, has a lot of freshmen have taken pivotal roles, and there's a lot of sophomores on the court too, second-year players, and players that like didn't switch positions. There's just been a lot of changes, and they're so young that they just make such young mistakes, this team. and they can be in this set. And we've seen them be in this set, but they just need to learn how to adapt quicker, this team. That's really, adaptability is really what they need to learn to do for this Cougars. And if they could adapt quickly, they could win these next and reverse sweep this team.
So the Cougars looking to build momentum out of the timeout. They trail by 7. Lakeland leads 23-16. And Kitsemble will send that across. Adler able to keep it alive. Rathel passes it over. Now this will be set up for Westerholm. And she had the green light. And now Lakeland at set point with a set 8-point lead. Kitsemble sends it over and out of bounds. Good line awareness from Janelle White to let that just fly out of bounds. So the Cougars not done yet. CUC would have to be flawless from this point going forwards. Looking to build momentum. Christensen sends it across. Set up for Esquivel, who just floats it over. Now Adler setting up Foster, blocked at the line. She'll set up Foster again, who just has to tap it over. And that point will go to the Muskies. The tap over outside the pin. And CUC will drop set number 2. Lakeland this time with a more comfortable win, 25-17. 8-point win in set number 2. And Lakeland, they've gone up 2-0 early. CUC backs up against the wall now in what could be their final game in contention for the playoffs. But we'll take a short break here at the Cougar Sports Network as these teams get ready for set number 3. We'll be back in just a moment for more Cougar volleyball action. Welcome back to River Forest at Concordia, Chicago in Geisman Gymnasium. Cougars taking on the Lakeland Muskies on senior day here at Concordia, Chicago. The Cougars trailing 2-0. Lakeland jumping out early and now looking to pull off the sweep in set number 3. And Lakeland, they've clinched the playoffs. with a win today, they would clinch at a minimum 6th place, 6th seed in that conference tournament. But if they can get hot over these next few games, get some losses from the 5 teams above them, they absolutely have the ability to work up that seeding in the conference tournament. On the Cougars, though, like we've talked about, higher stakes on CUC's end. They're not eliminated yet. They're 1 game behind the 8th seed. With a loss today, it does push the Cougars out of contention. CUC now has to pull off a reverse sweep. And that reception honestly works out for the Cougars, going off of the ceiling. White, time to get over to it. As we set up for Christensen, blocked at the line, rolling across the net. Gay just has to pass it over. Now Hunt taps it over, perfectly placed floater from the junior. And CUC draws first blood. And now a shift from the Cougars. Janelle White out there in the libero uniform, playing as a libero now. And that received by Adler. Marin passing over to Michaela Levoy, who just misses the hit, just misjudged it. And now the Cougars, after taking that first point, trail 2-1. Ryan Figge sends it across again, received by White. Adler able to get over it to it. Now Christensen running in on it. That's set up for Pernsteiner. Received right back over the net. This is set up for Stevens, who kind of has to go back for it. Adler setting up Christensen through the block and down. Christensen, been one of the most effective hitters on this squad this season. Had a bit of a slow start to the game today, but now picking up her 4th kill, which doesn't seem like much, but for the Cougars, that comes close to the game lead for CUC. Now Stevens running in from mid-range. Adler setting up Brown, and Brown unable to get it in bounds. Had the opportunity, just too much angle. Point Lakeland, that'll go send service back over to the Muskies as well. Rosalie Carrasquillo coming back into the match to serve. And Carrasquillo comes into the match to serve and sends it straight into the net. Cougars back in front, 3-2. Katie Heidel subbing in for Lily Hunt, and she'll drop back to serve. Heidel sends that across as we set up by Carrasquillo. And the Cougars unable to keep it alive effectively. So these two teams trading points again. We're tied 3-3 in the early goings. And this is how really the beginning of all 3 sets have gone now. These two teams just going back and forth, trading points, no one really getting on an early run.
They showed, the Cougars can show that they could take a lead, they can compete, they could go point for point with this team when they're in it, when they have the right people in, when they're really working on what they need to work on and just being consistent. But that really hasn't been happening at some points in the set, and they're just ultimately not playing to their standard as a team.
And that reception from White heads into the near bleachers. So another traded point, 4-4. But something we were actually talking about in the break, Lakeland has been sloppy today. We've seen that in this set, 2 consecutive service errors, and Westerholm able to end that. Doesn't end that run. That's out of bounds. Last 3 service opportunities for Lakeland have been service errors. But then we talked about that. Lakeland, they've been sloppy today. The problem is that the Cougars have been unable to capitalize on those errors.
They haven't really been getting, as you said, capitalizing. For the Cougars, they haven't been really scoring as much on the offensive end today. And that leads to this team where when they're getting points, they're making all the points of the game. They're making all the errors. They're making all the kills of the game. They're really just controlling this whole game. And if the Cougars found a way just to control and put the ball in their court, hit the ball in their court too, like not to say a basketball term, but turn it into a volleyball term, they could sway this game in their favor.
And the Cougars trade points again. Lakeland's been unable to build a run themselves. Cougars back in front 6-5 off the kill from Livesey. Milena Adler back to serve for the Cougars now. She'll send it across, received by Kit Semble. Now Pernsteiner from the back row. White passes that up to Livesey. Gay sets up Escobar. Adler to White. Over to Hunt, and that'll go out of bounds. Hunt powers that through the block. And the Cougars, they now have a 2-point lead, and I actually do believe this is the biggest lead the Cougars have had today. They've been able to stay with the Muskies, haven't been able to build a lead yet. But the Cougars showing some offensive ability on that possession. Now Kit Semble just has to send that across. Escobar just has to pass it over. Adler sets up Hunt. Tipped at the line by the block. Another kill for Lily Hunt. Gets up there and powers it through the Cougars. And now on a 3-0 run with Milena Adler serving.
Showing with no injury, Hunt is an offensive threat for this team. And some of the games without the injury could have swayed it a different way if Hunt just was able to control the court with kills.
Absolutely. As Esquivel sends that over, White to Adler, sets up Lily Hunt. And that will be kept alive by Janelle White. Christensen sends that through the block. Pernsteiner passing over to Escobar from mid-range. Now Adler setting up Livesey on the near side. That reception goes straight back over. White passing up to Livesey again. That one blocked at the line. Livesey, third time, received by Kit Semble. Now Kit Semble from mid-range. White to Adler. This time she'll go to Hunt, who floats it over. The Muskies able to keep it alive. Adler to White. Livesey from the near side floats it over herself. Straight back over. White to Adler. She'll go to Hunt this time. And that's down, and the Cougars take that point. Lakeland keeps it alive, but able to do so long enough. We talked about the Cougars' struggles on offense. Van, you broke it down. But that play, the offense from the Cougars just pressuring again and again and again and again and finally breaking through Lakeland.
When they apply pressure, they could really shake up this team and really win this set and just build momentum.
And the Cougars blocked at the line. Christensen unable to keep it alive. So that'll end the run for the Cougars. They went on a 4-0 run before losing it. They still have a 3-point lead. They lead 9-6. But the Cougars able to build some momentum now. Back to serve is Riley Escobar. She'll send it across, received by Christensen. Adler sets for Hunt, who just floats it. And great awareness on that floater because the Muskies just left that near middle of the court wide open. No one expected Hunt to go there. So the Cougars able to take the possession back immediately. 4-point lead for CUC, 10-6. Shaira Marin back into the match to serve. And Pernsteiner, errant reception. Michaela Levoy is there to take advantage of it. Cougars pick up another point. And, I mean, we kind of talked about it before the Cougars run, too. Mistakes from Lakeland that weren't being capitalized on as much. That's what we've seen since the Cougars have started to build this momentum. Another errant reception. Lakeland's unable to stay alive. And that's going to prompt the first time out of the set from Ryan Schott. The Cougars go on a 4-0 run, then go on a 3-0 run. CUC leads 12-6. And you kind of broke it down mid-play, Van, but what has changed really from that early going of the Cougars is trading points to now they have the momentum at their backs. They have their biggest lead of the day.
I think one of the main things is it's so real for the Cougars right now. If they don't go all out, they are out of this conference tournament. They need to do everything they can. And for Lakeland, it's on their end, it's, hey, we already have a clinch spot. How are we going to play? How are we going to do this? How are we going to get through this match? Then to just how are we going to get to the tournament is really what it seems like is the mindset they have versus the Cougars' mindset. And they've been playing very much leading this game with the kills, with errors on the side. They really have had control of this game. But once the Cougars were able to put pressure, get kills, build momentum, they are able to compete with this team, a team that has someone that is leading the whole conference in kills. Just it shows when you apply pressure, the Cougars can really do anything with a younger team.
And you kind of mentioned that conference leader in kills, Susanna Stevens, hasn't had a bad day, 6 kills, but 4 errors to go along with that. The Cougars really haven't allowed her to control this match. As Susanna Stevens, that's another shot well out of bounds, but she plays the block well, tipped at the line by the Cougars blockers. So Susanna Stevens make it 7 kills. Lakeland able to win the point, and then the Cougars run coming out of the timeout. So whatever Ryan Schaap talked to his players about, it's working for now, as Ryan Figi will send that across. Adler will set up for Hunt. Blocked at the line. That's going to eat up Shayera Marin on the return. So Lakeland will continue this possession. They now only trail by 4.
And that set was a trap set. It was right in the blocker's hands. You got to do what you can with that one. You got to just try to set up for your team. Just use the block to your advantage and reset the play, but the Cougars ultimately couldn't do that.
Figgy just has to pass that over. Now Adler setting for Christensen. Gay able to keep it alive. Pernsteiner from mid-range. Adler sets up for Christensen. Again blocked at the line and blocked down to the open center of the court. Lakeland's now out of the timeout. 3-0 run. Exactly what Ryan Schaap was looking for out of his players. Ryan Figgy will continue her service run. Received by White. Adler able to get there. Christensen from the near side. That's just going to be tapped over. Now Adler passing to White. Christensen running into the middle. Gay setting up Westerholm. Now Adler will set up Hunt. Pernsteiner straight into the net. So it's an error that will end the 3-0 Lakeland run. Cougars will take possession. Janelle White dropping back to serve. And again, we've seen these errors from Lakeland. This time it's an error that ends a 3-0 run. Cougars would love to capitalize on this one, keep that momentum they have, keep that gap that they have right now. But they'll send an error back the other way. Janelle White sends it out of bounds on the opposite corner. Possession back to the Muskies. They're back to trailing by 3. That serve received by Marin. Adler setting up Hunt from mid-range and just unable to get that one down with the power she put on it. That'll head out of bounds. Point Muskies.
Muskies attempting to climb back into this game. When they are consistent, they could take this match. That's the thing that they have. Just not making errors, playing clean volleyball. They have control.
Now Brown setting that back over. Here's Stevens from the far side. Open back of the court. Not a strong block. And Susanna Stevens again breaking out the cannon. Lakeland going from down 6 to down 1. They're on another 3-0 scoring run.
Shows why she's that conference leader. Just such her height, her ability to jump, and putting all that power in that hit just gives her such an advantage.
Now Adler setting up Brown, floats it over. Set up for Westerholm, and that's going to drop down. A good response from Acacia Brown. Soft hit started going in the middle, responded with a soft hit, but got more distance on it. Nobody there as the Lakeland defense converged on the net. So the Cougars end that run. They only have a 2-point lead now, however, with Katie Heidel back to serve. Carrasquillo sends that forwards for Stevens, who just punches it over. Adler to Christensen, and Christensen unable to keep it in bounds, too far to the left. So an error for the Cougars, unable to build a run. And what the Cougars were doing well on offense was building those runs when they built that 6-point gap. Now the last 2 times they've taken possession, they've lost it on that immediate first serve. So now the 1-point gap. Christensen from the near side, off the block and out of bounds. Point Cougars. Ryan Schopp shaking his head at that block as he swats the ball back over to the Cougars service line. Brooke Christensen back to serve now for CUC. Christensen sends it over. Errant reception by Riley Escobar. Nobody there from Lakeland. And the Cougars up to 16 now. They have a 3-point lead, 16-13. Serves up, received by Figgy, set by Carrasquillo. And that block will head out of bounds. Brown and Livesey unable to win the angles battle. So Lakeland will take possession back. They trail by 2, and dropping back to serve is Lucero Velasquez, a junior out of Sheboygan, Wisconsin, into the game for the first time today. And Velasquez sends that over. Adler just tips it over. And blocked at the line by Acacia Brown. Now Brown over to Adler, setting up Livesey. Blocked at the net into the pin. Point Cougars. They take possession back immediately. The Cougars, a good response to that change of possession.
Really showing when they are aggressive, when they are strong, when they press, the Cougars can hold their own against a team that was projected to be top of the conference with someone who's leading the conference in kills. The Cougars can do it if they just play consistent.
And that shot out of bounds off the arm of Faith Baker, freshman out of Verona, Illinois, into the match for the first time in this set. Has a kill, picks up an error there. Cougars lead 18-14. Mika Barraza serves it up once again. Carrasquillo sets up Pernsteiner. That's deflected out of bounds by the Cougars. Pernsteiner, another kill, her 11th of the day. And Lakeland refusing to go away. They've climbed back within a 3-point gap, and they're trying to keep it there. Pernsteiner received by White, and that reception's all the way to the net. Now White passes it up for Livesey. Tries to go coast to coast. Kitsemble passing it over, and Figgy will send it across. Now Adler over to Livesey again. This time sets up Escobar, going to the back row. Adler sets up for Levoy, who dunks that down on Lakeland's side of the court. Michaela Levoy, great awareness coming off that set from Adler. And Adler herself will drop back to serve now. She'll send it across. That's set up for Escobar, blocked at the line. Figgy keeps it alive. Now Pernsteiner from mid-range, and just late reactions from Brooke Christensen. That will drop down to the ground, so these two teams trade points again. But something we haven't mentioned in this third set, the Cougars have actually gone back to a 5-1.
Yes, just with the consistency of a 5-1, it provides a little bit more just a similarity for the hitters, allows them to be more, they know what they're going to get each time. Although, not to say that White's setting wasn't bad, it's just you have less options on the court to set then when you don't run a 6-2, but you have more consistent flow. So with the consistent flow, the Cougars really have been able to build and get kills and just not have as many errors as they were having more opportunities to get kills.
And Shaira Marin, she's been strong at the service line all year, but picks up another service error today with that serve. Shaira Marin, one of those seniors on this squad, heading to what will let into the final few matches as a Cougar. White receives, Adler sets up for Hunt, blocks at the line and down. Stevens and Westerholm get up there. It's now just a 2-point gap. Ryan Figgy dropping back to serve once again. Figgy into the net. That's a service error. Cougars will take possession back with a 3-point lead. They're up 21-18. Serves up. Received by Esquivel. Gay sets for Stevens. Now Adler able to keep that up. Christensen into the pin. Off of a rush set from Adler. Kind of a messy play off the reception from the Cougars. And now Lakeland will take possession back. Carrasquillo dropping back to serve. Christensen receives. Adler passes it up for Christensen. Tipped at the line and out of bounds. Point Cougars. And this is when that ability to trade points becomes critical. What we saw in those first two sets is the Cougars, they were able to trade points, but they weren't able to gain on Lakeland. They weren't able to get a lead. In this set, we've seen them get that lead, and now they have that lead. Trading points allows you to keep that lead even if you're not winning every point.
That's just phenomenal. That's like 20 feet. Like, it may not be a bounce ball, but she just kills it each time, showing her just offensive prowl.
If you give Susanna Stevens the space, she's going to take it, and that's when you see shots like that. It's been a huge part of the game for Lakeland so far today. Now Christensen, coast to coast from the near side into the bleachers. Cougars trade points once again. They lead 23-20. Christensen back to serve for CUC, 2 points away from taking their first set of the day. And Christensen sends it across. Figgy receives. Esquivel passes it up for Pernsteiner. Heidel keeps it alive. Adler over to Livesey. Pernsteiner just has to pass it over. White to Adler. Sets up Brown on the run. And a great shot from Brown. The block drops down, and it is now set point for CUC, 24-20. Christensen back to serve. Sends it across. Drops it on the line. Perfectly placed. And it's an ace to take set number 3 for CUC. The Cougars able to put the pressure on Lakeland. They win set 3, 25-20. The Cougars are still alive. They trail 2-1, and the reverse sweep is now in play for CUC. As these two teams get ready for set number 4, we'll take a short break at the Cougar Sports Network, and we'll be back in just a moment. welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium for Senior Day at Concordia, Chicago. And the Cougars coming off of a thrilling set 3. They took 25-20 over the Muskies. CUC staying alive in what is essentially an elimination game for the Cougars.
Yes, the Cougars really need to win this game to stay in the tournament, to have even a chance. And with upset against Lakeland, it's such a huge opportunity for them. It persuades the way the tie may go if there ends up to be a tie, taking on a top-level team.
Absolutely. And I mean, look at that playoff set right now as Lakeland takes point number 1 with a reception error from the Cougars. There are 2 teams tied for 8th right now in the conference. That's Dominican and I believe the Milwaukee School of Engineering. But I'm going to have to check on that. Either way, the odds if the Cougars can win, the odds this will result in a tie are very high for CUC. So, again, tiebreakers are messy, but a win over Lakeland goes a long way in strengthening the Cougars' record on that. The Cougars have been hot lately. Like we talked about earlier, they're coming off of 2 straight wins over Marion and Alverno. Games that the Cougars needed to win, should have won, and did win. Now Adler passing over to Christensen. Gay sets up Stevens, and Stevens does what she does best, picks up a kill. That sends her to double digits, able to power through the block.
Really just showing her offensive prowess. We talk about it so much, but just a strong hitter, a tall hitter, which allows her to get so many kills.
Now White receives Adler, setting up Hunt, brings the Tabasco, but it's sent right back. Now Brown just bats it over. Stevens from the near side, a floater, and the Cougars unable to receive cleanly. That'll be point Lakeland. They lead by 2, 3-1 in the early goings. Ryan Figge back to serve. Figge sends it across. Adler sets up Christensen. Blocked at the line and out of bounds. Brooke Christensen gets enough of an angle on that power shot to win that battle, and the Cougars back in possession.
The Cougars really have been showing when they are on, and they could keep up with the top teams in the conference. We saw it with in the last week with Aurora. They had it was not a terrible loss, but when they were in, they were close. With Dominican too, they were in it the whole time. These close games really show that they could be a great team without the injuries, without the age differences. The Cougars really could be a huge threat.
And now Christensen's shot out of bounds, point Lakeland. But yeah, like you mentioned, a lot of these games this year, there hasn't really been a game that the Cougars have played in that's felt like, oh, this was completely unwinnable. At some point, every game they've played so far within conference, it's felt as if the Cougars could steal a set, could steal the win, maybe, and they've struggled to actually execute that, to actually do that. And they're struggling in the first part of set number 4, trailing 6-2 early. And serve receives been strong so far today. It's struggling to start off this set. Carrasquillo sends that across. Adler sets up Brown. Floater! Figge keeps it alive. Heidel to Adler. Over to Christensen. And that's into the pin again. 4-0 scoring run now for the Muskies. So the Cougars did a good job of not letting Lakeland get out in front early. And a do-or-die set 4, it's exactly what they have allowed the Muskies to do. Adler sets up Christensen. And it's a good shot from Christensen, deflected all the way past the scoring table by Figge. So CUC will take possession back. Christensen back to serve. The Cougars hoping to pick up a couple consecutive points now, and Stevens straight into the Cougars blockers and out of bounds. Another kill for the senior out of New Mexico.
It's a strong arm. Just keep reiterating it. Just shows what height does and what being also a strong hitter does for you. You could be the tallest hitter in the world and not be the best player just because you don't have that strength. But Stevens really just shows that she has it both, and that's why she's leading the conference in kills.
Cougars take up the point back. Kill by Rachel Livesey. Mika Barraza back to serve now. Set up by Carrasquillo for Pernsteiner. Good reception from Christensen. Now Livesey again. Too much on that shot. Goes out the back corner. So these two teams trading points again. Now with Lakeland holding a 5 or 4 point lead depending on who has possession at the time. Cougars unable to draw back into it yet. Now Westerholm sends that across. White receives, and it's an errant reception. Heads out the back. 2 in a row now for Lakeland. Westerholm will have another chance to serve. Senior out of Prior Lake, Minnesota. Christensen receives. Adler will set up Livesey. And that's deflected high. Reception. And that's just spiked down by Brianna Harper. Senior out of Waxahachie, Texas. Gets it done. Takes advantage of the short set to catch the Cougars off guard. And with a 7-point deficit, Andrew Palmer will call his first time out of the set.
It's been close for the Cougars, but really they had that win and they thought they could continue with that energy, and they need to bring a new energy and continue to have their foot on that gas pedal. And they're starting to ease off, and the Lakeland is really capitalized on that, and they really limited their errors especially on the attacking side, limited their attacking errors by so much, which has allowed them to re-steer the control in their way.
And you look at what's been going well for the Cougars today. It's when, like you've talked about a lot, the passing has been so important for this Cougars offense. In set number 3, we saw the communication very, very strong with those offensive plays. In this set, it's going right from the get-go. Receptions aren't being taken clean. It's causing messy offensive plays from CUC's part. They're not able to execute the way that they want to. It's allowing Lakeland to just continue to put pressure on CUC, continue to play this game the way they want to, and force the Cougars onto their back foot. So coming out of the timeout, it'll be Isabella Westerholm back to serve once again with a 7-point lead. Lakeland up 11-4. Cougars looking to end what is currently a 3-0 scoring run coming out of this timeout. Westerholm will send that across. Received by Christensen. White just passes it forwards, and Livesey will hit that across from mid-range. White receives. Adler sets up for Livesey. Straight into the block. White keeps it alive. Livesey again floats that one. Now Pernsteiner tries to go to the back row. That's up off the backboard of the basketball hoop. Christensen just has to pass it across. Carrasquillo sets for Harper. White keeps it alive. Livesey sends it up. Adler tries to spike it across. White passes up for Livesey, straight into the block. Levoy keeps it alive. These two teams going toe-to-toe at the wall. Cougars force it across now. Kit Semble to Esquivel. Now Adler sets up Livesey. And that's going to get over to the bleachers and into the net. Kit Semble's unable to keep it alive. A chaotic rally won by Concordia Chicago.
And that's our second long rally of the day. Like, these teams are going all out right now, trying their best to stay in it and just keep the ball up, which is so respectable. A ball never drops.
I mean, that one, I started calling that in the bleachers. Pernsteiner ended up in the bleachers on that point. Now Livesey Sends that across. Carrasquillo passes over to Esquivel. Strong block at the line. Carrasquillo dumps it across. Adler's there. Now White passing over to Livesey. Figgy receives over to the net. Pernsteiner keeps it in. And awareness lapse from Carrasquillo. Didn't realize it was the third hit. And now the Cougars have some momentum. I mean, those long points can go a long ways in building momentum, but they will lose it. Service there from Milena Adler. Cougars trailing by 6 now. Caitlin Pernsteiner back to serve. Adler sets up for Hunt, straight into the one-man block from Brianna Harper. That's point Muskies back to a 7-point lead, 13-6. Pernsteiner sends it across. Livesey receives. Adler sets up Livesey. And that'll drop down on the far corner. Cougars will take possession back. And it'll be Shira Marin into the match to serve. Shira Marin, strong from the service line all year, has struggled a bit with serving consistently today. And that's a good serve for Marin on that one. Now Pernsteiner from the back row. Adler sets up Hunt on the near side, floater to a gap. And this is going to be a tough play for Lakeland, and Pernsteiner just kind of finds it in her lap as she rolls over on the ground.
She just did not get up quick enough after that dive.
So Marin sends it across again. Gay sets up Esquivel, and White's reception will head out of bounds. So the Cougars pick up 2 consecutive points. Instead of going 1 for 1, these two teams going 2 for 2. 6-point lead for Lakeland, 14-8, as Riley Esquivel drops back to serve from the near corner. Serves up, received by White. Adler sets for Hunt. And Lily Hunt brings no mercy with the kill straight to the head of Ryan Figgy, who now has to fix her hair after that shot. Lily Hunt bringing the power and catching Figgy off guard.
Literally knocking the ponytail out of her. Hunt really, after her injury, has showed that she is a presence, she is a force, and really is just a rock for this Cougar team.
Now Stevens from the back row. Adler sets up Brown. Gay over to it. Stevens just has to pass that over. This is a good opportunity for the Cougars. White over to Hunt. Saw an opportunity, unable to get it down. Now Gay, quick set for Harper. Point Cougars. Lift called on Sophie Gay. Sydney Gay. And the Cougars now picking up some consecutive points. It's a 4-point gap, 14-10. Janelle White back to serve. White sends it across. Figgy, awkward reception. And the Muskies unable to get it back over. Stevens had to make a awkward running pass and just sent it into the net. And so, yeah, we saw at the start of this net, the Muskies playing incredibly clean. They weren't making errors. Now they're making those errors again, and the Cougars starting to capitalize on it. Gay sets up Stevens. Adler goes across the court to Christensen, goes back for it. Now Adler to Hunt. And Lily Hunt, again, the cannon comes out. That one eats up Esquivel on the back row. And the Cougars have brought this game within 2. It's now a 4-0 scoring run for CUC. Janelle White sends it across and out of bounds, so that'll end the run. But the Cougars within 3 again. And after that first time out of this set, they've slowly started creeping back up on the Muskies.
Really showed their presence, really showed that they can continue in this set, continue in this game, put on the pressure, put on the gas, and be in this game, be in the playoffs, be a team that can compete.
Now Christensen, floater from the far side. Floater again. Gay will set up Pernsteiner from the back row off the net. White puts that up for Hunt, and too much power on it that time from Lily Hunt. That goes out of bounds. 16-12 lead now for Lakeland. The Muskies would love a good run here. Kind of put a damper on the Cougars' momentum they picked up after their own run. Now Adler will set up Hunt. And Hunt again out of bounds. And after being so strong at the midpoint of this set, Lily Hunt, 2 errors in a row. And Andrew Palmer will take a timeout. Cougars going to try and figure this out. They got that momentum. They got within 2. They're now back down by 5. So as the Cougars try to figure things out, we'll take a short break here at the Cougar Sports Network. We'll be back in just a moment for more Cougar Volleyball. Welcome back to Geisman Gymnasium. The Lakeland Muskies with a 5-point lead on the Cougars and possession right now. They lead 17-12 at the midway point of set 4. Muskies have a 2-1 set lead, trying to close out this match. White puts that up. Hunt just has to pass it over. Now Gay sets for Stevens. There it is. Put Stevens in space, and she'll again break out the power.
Just a strong hitter. Almost every time she gets that ball, she's a lot of attempts, but when she sees that space, she's getting a kill.
A good floater from Lily Hunt for her 11th kill of the day. So that will end a 4-0 scoring run from the Muskies. Cougars trailing by 5 as Katie Heidel will drop back to serve. Serves up. Good serve. Figgy has to dive for it. Dump off from Gay. Adler sets up Christensen on the spin. Now Stevens just has to pass that across. Brown straight into the block. Kept alive by Westerholm. Back row from Pernsteiner. There's Christensen to the back row. Gay sets up Westerholm, tries to dunk it. White keeps it alive. Miscommunication from Elena Adler and Katie Heidel. A costly mistake from CUC. Plenty of time to figure out who's going to get it. And both of them try and go for it. Goes out of bounds, and that'll end the Cougars' possession.
Yeah, those communication errors. We've seen a couple of those today, but really have been killing the Cougars.
That serve received by White. Adler sets up Christensen straight into the block. Marin sends it over. Now this will be set by Adler. Brown, floater, point Cougars. That'll go as an error on Lakeland, unforced. So the Cougars take possession back, trade point. So have another opportunity to go on a run. They trail by 5. The Muskies at 19 points are 6 points away from taking the set. Christensen across. So we set by Carrasquillo for Stevens. Stevens with space. Able to just power that to the court again.
And they were blocking line, the Cougars, too, and that was hit like 20 feet. It's just an insane thing to do. Just an insane spot to hit each time. Just a strong hitter.
Heidel receives. Adler sets over to Livesey. And Livesey finds Pater. Cougars take possession back. They're trading points at this point of the match, but the Cougars trailing by 5, down 20-15, need a run soon to get back into this set and get back into this match. Mika Barraza back into the match to serve. She's been working as a service specialist today. That reception, errant over the net. Levoy taps it immediately back over. And the Cougars take advantage of some errant passing from the Muskies to pick up the point there. 20-16 is the gap now. Barraza back to serve again. Barraza across, received by Kitsemble, blocked at the line by Levoy, and the one-man block comes up big for CUC. And a hard collision on the back row from Escobar and Kitsemble. They're slow to get up, but they do get up. Kitsemble walks it off.
Looked like it also went off the head again of Figgy the second time today. Just getting hit in the head a lot today for Figgy.
Carrasquillo sets that up, and a good find from Escobar to get that down in the near corner. But again, the important thing to note is at this point of the set, the Muskies really, really want to rotate because you have sort of your second team front line in right now. Sydney Gay is out of the match. Susanna Stevens is out of the match. That's where the rotation's at right now. And the Cougars' front line is playing well. Livesey straight into the block and down. Point Muskies, so 2 in a row for Lakeland. They now have that 5-point lead back, 22-17. They can close out with this formation. They absolutely would love to. But if the Cougars can take possession back and start to get going, this is the sort of the players you want on the field to do that against. Livesey into the block again. Pernsteiner and Harper again coming up big, and we've talked a lot about that height advantage that Lakeland has. That's what you kind of see. Rachel Livesey, operating as a front row hitter for CUC, is 5'5". And like you've talked about, Van, a lot of these players from Lakeland, 5'11", 6 foot. That's such an advantage as Livesey just tries to float that over and out of bounds. And that'll make it set point.
Yeah, for Livesey, she's been trying to challenge that low seam right now, and she just attempted now for high hands, but it's when you have these tall players, you need to, especially when the block is established, you need that high seam.
Now Christensen finds pay dirt to keep this one alive. 24-18, Cougars will take possession back. And Milena Adler will drop back to serve. Lily Hunt coming back into the game to keep the match alive, to keep their season alive. The Cougars have to be flawless. Carrasquillo sets up Harper out of bounds. Point Cougars. They're up to 19, 24-19 now. Milena Adler back to serve again for the Cougars. Sends it across. Received by Kitsemble. Carrasquillo sets for Escobar, who kind of has to go back for it. Now White passing up for Livesey. Straight into the block. She'll keep it up, though. Adler just has to pass it over. Now Carrasquillo setting for Pernsteiner. Adler sets up Hunt. Hunt taps it over. And Hunt, perfectly placed tapper. And the set will stay alive. Cougars now at 20.
The Cougars are in this game, and they continue to show that, hey, we're here. We're not going to end here. This is how we're not going to go out. We're going to try our best and continue going.
And that's a way to do it. Service ace out of Milena Adler. Air reception from Kitsemble. Cougars at 21 need 3 more points to force extra volleyball. Adler sends it over, received by Esquivel, set by Carrasquillo for Pernsteiner. And that will be called inbounds. That'll do it. Pernsteiner perfectly placed on the far corner. 25-21 lead for Lakeland. As you hear Drops of Jupiter begin to play once again, the Cougars tried to fight back in set number 4, but it's too little too late. Lakeland takes it 3-1, a 4-set victory for the visiting Muskies, and that secures, at minimum, the 6th seed in the playoffs. And with the loss to the Muskies today, the Cougars eliminated from the postseason within the NAC. A tough loss for CUC. And a big win for Lakeland. There were points where the Muskies really had to fight back in this one. The Cougars really putting pressure on Lakeland, but the Muskies, talented squad, able to do enough to win. And before we kind of break it down a bit, we'll take you to some of your statistic leaders. Susanna Stevens, she leads the NAC in kills. She led the day in kills. 15 on the day, a 257 hitting percentage. Followed up by your second kill leader and the person who closed this match out, Caitlin Pernsteiner, 13 on the day, a 237 hitting percentage. Strong performance out of the offense by the Muskies on the Cougars, led in kills by Lily Hunt. And at the end of the day, the Cougars, theirs cost them 30 on the day to Lakeland's 24. Your assist leader again, and this makes sense with the way the Cougars operate their setters. Milena Adler, 32 assists. The Muskies splitting their setters, 19 each for Sydney Gay and Rosalie Carrasquillo. Your digs was a tie for the lead. Janelle White, Caitlin Pernsteiner, both with 15 apiece. And blocking was a critical part of today's game. We saw some big blocks from Lakeland's side. 4 apiece for Brianna Harper and Isabella Westerholm.
Ultimately for the Cougars, they just weren't as hot towards the end of the game. They had that steam. They gave up 30 total points. They gave up a full set of errors, the Cougars. And we talked about how Lakeland at first was kind of a little bit sloppy, but they really turned it around and they were able to capitalize, get kills, and just be a consistent player. And ultimately, that's why Lakeland won. They were the more consistent team. They were the more team that was on, and they were leading each stat in this game.
Absolutely. When the pressure was on at the end of the match, the Muskies handled it, put the pressure back onto the Cougars. Lakeland takes it 3-1 over CUC. So Lakeland secures that 6th place within the NAC. And what is coming up on the final days of regular season NAC volleyball. Within the NAC, every team with about 1 game left in this season. That seeding starting to work itself out. So Lakeland at 6. They're now grouped around teams such as Benedictine, Illinois Tech, trying to fight for those playoff spots. Outside chance of Lakeland able to gain a home game. The Cougars drop to 3-9 within conference, lose an opportunity at the playoffs. But both of these teams are in action in the regular season yet this season. The Cougars head on to close out their season at home right here on Wednesday, November 6th, taking on the Illinois Tech Scarlet Hawks. And Lakeland, to try and continue to secure the highest seeding they can, will travel to Wauwatosa, Wisconsin to take on the Wisconsin Lutheran College Warriors on Thursday, November 7th. But that'll do it here at Concordia, Chicago. From the Cougar Sports Network, huge thank you to everyone who made today's broadcast possible. On camera today was Eric Perry, working as our directors. Was Ashley Schroll and Jessica Gang. On air with me today was Van Gato. I'm Jonathan Shear. Thank you for joining us on the Cougar Sports Network, and make sure to join us this upcoming Wednesday for the season finale of Cougar Volleyball. As always, roll Cougs.
So much for tuning in to today's Concordia University Chicago Cougars Athletics broadcast. We hope to see you on campus very soon. If you would like to learn more about what Concordia Chicago has to offer, go to cuchicago.edu.